The consensus greatest Call of Duty League player of all time is joining us right now. Ask anybody who the best COD competitive player is. He will say the person below us right now on screen. Ian Crimsix Porter has cemented his legacy with his third world championship, the Dallas Empire, getting it done this past weekend. And then there's a lot more to unpack after that. But let's start with the World Championships, E6.
How's it going, guys?
How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's a relaxing. It's not really relaxing, but I mean, we're just. I guess you could say we're just tired from all the time and effort that we put in the last at least month. So it's just kind of weird, not really having anything to do other than a bunch of interviews and just hanging out. So it's been good, but obviously with the news on Monday, it's tough. It's tough too.
Well, take us back to, I mean, we've heard a lot of things in terms of when people first started hearing about 4v4, how teams were digesting it. Like, when was the first time you actually heard about this?
About a month and a half ago. And yeah, I think it was decided like a month and a half ago. And a lot of owners didn't, relay that information to their players for obvious reasons. But I don't know why they shouldn't have had that vote that early, because there's no way to keep something like that a secret. And obviously it's going to affect players, it's going to affect teams, and it's at the end of the day, it sucked that I would rather have it come out of nowhere than have it happen the way it did. So it's just that premeditated thought of what's going to happen next year, even though our biggest tournament was still yet to come for this current year. So that's honestly what everyone was thinking, I would say, the month leading up into champs.
So you guys knew about it. We've heard from Clay and other people, but how did do you know when exactly the vote took place and who voted on it? Was it just team ownership?
Well, yeah, it was. I mean, again, I remember tweeting it out, right? And it's how you define like voting. It wasn't like everyone got together and like as a group. I mean, this is all to my understanding. It wasn't like everyone got together and was like, yeah, let's raise your hand if you want 5v5, raise your hand if you want 4v4. I don't think it was like that. I think it was like each owner was contacted, or organization was contacted, and was pretty much like, which one do you prefer, and give me your reasons why. And it was like it was probably phrased as like a prefer, not like a hey, we're making a change next year, like, what do you think about this? I don't it probably wasn't done like that, but I bet you the overwhelming majority was one of the reasons why it probably went 4v4. So or at least made them seriously consider changing. So
okay.
So this was a month and a half out. You still have playoffs to worry about. You still have a season to worry about. Like, take me through even the initial reactions. Like, did you talk to the team about this? Did you push it to the side? How did you handle it?
So I found out and immediately told my team, because I knew that out of any team in the league that we were most like a team, like we were most like a unit. And just knowing the personalities and, the character, or the characteristics of everyone on the team, that we'd probably be able to handle this information better than any team in the league. So, it was obviously, I mean, when I heard it first, I was like, damn, that sucks, And at the end of the day, like, the game does play 4v4 better. Now, if you were to ask me, like, on a game like Black Ops 4, like, those maps were not, in my opinion, were probably not even playable 4v4. But I'm really hoping that the next game has maps catered to 4v4 and not 5v5, so a little bit smaller, a little bit more condensed. And I think that will really determine whether the gameplay is better or not, because, like, honestly, you look at maps like on Call of Duty Ghost, and I think a lot of people probably haven't even considered this, but that game probably would have played better 5v5. I mean, there's just huge open lanes. There was just it like a game like that felt like there was a lot of space on the map. And I mean that's just my opinion. So I really think that it's going to come down to the overall maps in terms of what is going to play better 4v4 or 5v5. So
Do you know how? Because like one thing that, and again, COD is incredibly unique with this because not only do you have to deal with one developer, but you have to deal with several, and they all communicate with players and ownership completely differently. Sometimes not at all. But I think what I was wondering is how much like communication do you think happened between, or has happened, if you know, between Treyarch and the actual league, or Treyarch and players?
probably a lot.
Okay.
I would say probably a lot. I don't know for certain. But it had to have. It was probably Treyarch that proposed, like, hey, we got small maps. Do you want to do 4v? Do you want to see if they want to do 4v4? And I mean, the fans have been asking for it. I think that everyone's wanted 4v4, like, especially, and I mean, think about from like a casting standpoint, it's definitely a lot easier to cast. There's just like less chaos on the map when there's one less player. From like setting up events, there's one less setup. There's one less, and while that might be fine for the main stage or like the Bravo stage, the backup main stage, it comes into play when you're setting up like the Challenger series, the AM brackets. You're literally you're going you're taking off like what 20% of whatever you're setting up. So it's definitely easier in almost every single regard. And I mean, yeah, it makes sense, but in a way, like you just look at, to me, it's just like you look at all the other esports, like no one's doing 4v4 except for what, like Halo, I think. But in all the other esports, everyone's doing 5v5. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough decision no matter what. But ultimately, I think it comes down to maps and how the game plays out. All I know is that I hope that if, Treyarch's on board with 4v4, if the league's on board with 4v4, then the game after this game is still in that direction, because this like changing and switching has got to stop. It's just not fair to like us as players and me as a player. It's like I would prefer to just stay on the same format in that regard every single year. But yeah, I just hope that everybody's on the same page, that if we're going 4v4, we're staying 4v4. And if there's a switch like this, back to 5v5, like I mean, it could happen at this point. We played 2 years, only 2 years 5v5. Mm-hmm. So it's I don't know. It's interesting.
Even before we talk about how we got to the situation with Clay leaving the Dallas Empire, there are now 12 less starting spots across the league. And we're already hearing news. Some players are leaving their teams. Players like JCap are retiring. We're already starting to hear this kind of news, right? Like, what do you think the offseason is going to look like, Crim?
Well, do you guys, is the free agency period public?
As far as I know, it's the
13th
13th, I think.
I think it's like this until the 6th to exercise the option, and then a week after that. Yeah,
they made it. They made it public.
Hopefully, you guys aren't like testing me right now, but yeah,
no.
Yeah, okay.
We're not. This is not a gotcha question. I'm very curious.
Yeah, our job is we're not trying to set you up to list.
Okay.
No, we're not. This is not a gotcha question.
Yeah, but I mean, hopefully, everyone gets their teams. Like ultimately, I think the best thing from a player standpoint is to get all the teams this handled as quickly as possible. You sign your new contracts so you can get paid during the off season because and that was one of the main reasons why we're like, we need to form a players union, because like we weren't actually signing 1-year deals. We were only signing one. It was either like a 9-month deal or like a what was it? Like a 21-month deal, because basically, if that option is an exercise, you don't get on a team until Cold War starts, which an org can entirely do. It wouldn't make sense, but it's possible. You could literally be getting you wouldn't be getting a salary for like 3 months. And that was one of the main concerns, which is just everyone needs to sign or get on a team sooner rather than later. So you can just go back to the off season, because when we're playing for 8-9 months straight. This year was a little bit shorter because we started later, but it's just healthier, and no one wants to go through 2 to 3 months worth of you hear your phone ring and you're just like paranoid out of your mind, and it's like there's moments in the roster change period, and pros never really talk about this, or people in other games, but it's one of the like sketchiest times to go through, and it's almost like you're afraid to go to sleep because you're afraid of waking up. Like you're like, oh, that like I just got my spot stolen or something like that. So that's why signing quickly is like probably the most. It just pleases everyone. Everyone wins. But yeah.
So that puts a lot of power in, especially in a franchise league, in the owner's hands. And you brought up the union word. I was going to, and I'm grateful that you brought it up. One of the things that I've always really appreciated about Call of Duty players, I think because a lot of you guys have had to do a lot on your own before there was even like an esports ecosystem or whatever.
Yeah.
You guys already have like, and I'm not going to get super in depth with GAs because they've like people have fluctuated incredibly.
Can't talk about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Except that 1 week where it showed up on the broadcast.
I will say one thing.
That is my that is my go-to actually. That is my go-to actually. Anytime a fine or I mean, I haven't even gotten one. I don't even think they're actually like any fines going out about talking about GAs because of that one moment.
Nice.
Because it was on the broadcast, so I don't think they're even, because everybody knows, like everybody knows, like you don't use certain things, and then that one moment is it's sort of like the saving grace for us as players. So shout out to CDL production. Thank you. But I mean, honestly, sorry to cut you off. This is a good topic though. Honestly, and I know Treyarch will be good at this, but in my opinion, if there was a quick method, and hopefully there is next year, of implementing like a change or like a GA into the like actual ban list quickly, then like none of this would even exist. So anyways.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, actually. It was kind of a side note. I was gonna bring up GAs as a way that players developed this method of communication to deal with certain things in the game, right? Where you're like, we can't play this competitively. We're gonna come together in an agreement. It's honestly the closest thing I've seen to a union organized by actual players in esports. I haven't seen anything from League of Legends, which was like the first game I covered really closely.
I think Counter-Strike has a union, right?
Yeah, Counter-Strike actually has a union.
Yeah.
So I think my main question to you is like, what is because COD pros seem to be pretty proactive when compared to a lot of other esports. Yeah. What is the main obstruction in your way in terms of actually forming a legitimate players union organized by the players themselves?
Probably the fact that we're all idiots. Not all idiots, but we're all in Call of Duty, because a lot of people from different esports always say that about Call of Duty players, like just that they don't give a they know their worth, like they know exactly, like it's almost like, and I mean, I've hung out with some Dota players, I know some Counter-Strike players, and I mean, there's plenty of people that will just, sign any contract put in front of them, and Call of Duty players are not like that. And I think one, it's probably because we're all from like North America and we also can communicate, uh, you know, stuff that's BS like quickly.
Hmm.
Um, like for example, say there's a new term in everyone's contract that people aren't liking, and I can like tell all the other teams about that, instantly, and say, make sure you do not do this. And I think that, there's a couple people in the scene, and I'd like to think that I'm probably one of them. But if I see some like bogus in the contracts like that, like I bring it up and I report it and I tell everyone about it. Um, and I don't know. I've had times in my career where, there's been like blackmailing, like I've been used and abused in terms of like contracts with that in that regard, and I've just seen it happen left and right in almost so many different, esports, that it's just, for me, it just does not fly. And yeah, so the biggest, I mean, the biggest thing for the players union is that everyone's pretty hard-headed. Uh but there was definitely some things that we didn't like, and so everybody knew, whether you dislike the player, you dislike the team, that like something needed to be done, because this was like especially after this year, um like something definitely needs to be done, because there's just no accountability.
Is this how much is this something that you want to help organize? It seems like you would logically be, if not the
Yeah,
figurehead of this, one of them, right? So how important is it for you to help establish this?
I would say it's important, obviously. But for me, it's like this can never come between me and my goals, my what I set out to do, what I want to do, like how I want to be remembered. Um, and for me, it's like this is the right thing to do. This is a good thing to do. Effort should be put into this, but it cannot conflict with you know, my personal ambitions, or my team's ambitions, I should also say. So
So now you've won 3. You have said, well, I guess I got to win 4 now. Like, how does it feel? You are in this rarefied air that people unequivocally now consider you to be the best at something. But
uh,
it took this championship. I mean,
I
many
guess
people would say
it's,
that.
it's still debatable, I guess.
Yeah,
'Cause yeah,
anything is debatable,
yeah,
but many people would say with this
honest,
3rd championship, based on the numbers alone,
yeah,
that is a very high mountain to climb.
yeah. Um, I mean, I've always just had the like thinking method to like quickly forget. Um, irony, I know. Quickly forget tournaments. And like basically I'll have like, maybe a week, maybe a couple days where I just feel like on top of the world in that regard. But after that, it's back to work, and I completely, erase any sort of like post championship thought in my mind, because I think that's the biggest I shouldn't say problem, but obstacle. The biggest obstacle to great players, good competitors, uh, is yourself, and you can't really, like, you can't improve if you already think you can't, like you're God's gift to the world. You
Mm.
can't. And I mean, like, I'll have moments where I've been playing Call of Duty so long, I'll forget the fundamentals. And if I'm sitting here thinking, I'm God's gift to Call of Duty, or the best player in the world, then I can like, if those fundamentals, if I randomly forget them, and I'm thinking that, like, I'm not going to be able to identify those mistakes and be able to do something about it. So that's just how I've been thinking. I I I don't know. It's almost like, it's almost weird because maybe I don't think I'm in the best, and maybe that's why I'm staying so motivated for so long, because I feel like there's no, I don't want to set a limit to myself.
This year to previous years, I'm just wondering because a lot of pros had difficulty with this past year. How
Yeah.
did you stay motivated? And I know like you've already brought up the fact that your team was actually a team and you guys really, really enjoyed like
Yeah.
teaming together.
Probably stayed motivated this year just because I've said this on stream a couple of times, and Modern Warfare had like 1,000 things wrong with it, 1,000 little tiny things wrong with it. And I think, if those, not even 1,000, say half of them get fixed, say 500 little things get fixed, then this game would have been, in my eyes, incredible. Like, there's a lot of people, a lot of pros who just hated the game based solely off spawns, and like that's like an example of a little thing. So it's like, when you add all those up, it's like really difficult to like a game. But personally, the previous year just sort of really, really ticked me off. I think maybe it was good timing that this was like that this was like the proving year. I was on Optic for so long, and people always thought, why is this guy on the team? Like, he's trash. He's just getting carried. And then maybe it was good timing in a sense that I was super motivated on a game that people disliked almost. But honestly, I think it's funny because I think a lot of the people who actually enjoyed playing the game ended up placing well and placing better throughout the year. So but I mean, I don't know. It was definitely a weird year because 10 out of 12 teams made the grand finals of tournaments. So I've never seen that before, but yeah, I don't know. I personally thought Modern Warfare wasn't as bad as people thought it to be. Um, I I thought the game engine one was incredible. I thought that this game on like 30 hertz, so like pubs, literally felt better. It's like bullets would hit cleaner and hit better online than versus like the previous game on LAN. So that's just my opinion. You can say, that's BS or whatnot, but that's just how I feel. I feel like the game was actually could have been really good, but there's just so many things wrong with it. So
I have one question left. You've been very generous with your time, Krim. We really appreciate it.
yeah,
We
no
haven't
problem.
even gotten to winning the world championship and parting ways with Clayster yet. And I do want to ask, because this is the question on everybody's minds, and we really don't have a definitive reason as to why it was Clay over any of the other teammates. So as much as you're willing to tell us, like, why Clay?
Well, it was always me or Clay, because it was like, put yourself in Stroh's shoes. It was basically, you decide between, not even Stroh's shoes, like the investors, the sponsors. You decide between, people who are extremely decorated, or do you decide between the future? Like the three young guns, Illy, Shotzi, and Hook, are essentially the future. So it was I mean, we've already had our internal talks, but to summarize it in that regard, that's what it came down to. Um, and I mean, it sucked. Like, it straight up sucked because like Clay played incredible, like pretty much the whole year. And I think every single one of us had, moments or like for me, I had 1 month that I was just terrible. And, everyone on the team had those moments where they were not at the top of the game or top of their game. And there was no, someone said it best. It was like, whoever they decided to, get rid of, it would have been the wrong decision because everyone brought something to the team. Everyone was different in their own right and different in good ways. So that's why everyone's so torn up about it, because it's just like, it is what it is. And the only, I can't even blame anyone. Even if it was like, if it was me and putting myself in Clay's shoes, like, I don't even know if I could blame them, because I'd be blaming the people who decided to make it 5v5 in the first place or make it 4v4 next year, because that's truly that's the only reason why this had to happen. So, because I truly think, like, if we kept going 5v5, obviously we wouldn't have made a change. And I think that we were just getting started, honestly.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate circumstance. Did you know that was when the announcement was going to come, like a day after you win the world title?
No. I trust me, I bitched about that one because that was absurd. It was honestly a joke. Because everyone sort of knew it already, but then that announcement kicked everything into action. So whoever decided day after champs, I need to talk to you. All right.
Less than 20. Yeah, I was gonna say less than 24 hours.
Yeah,
Like, you didn't even get to celebrate for 24 hours.
Yeah. Well, it's literally like you got to celebrate. Like, me and Clay had some drinks, and Ray and Stro, and it's like you wake up hungover, and you see oh, it's 4v, like they already announced it. So it's like,
God.
I don't even know what to say.
I'm sorry. That's all I have to say.
The fact that you had to deal with that at your championship press conference, I think, is quite unfair, to say the least.
Yep.
Last question for you to end this on a high note.
Okay.
Where does this championship win compare to your previous two?
I mean, it definitely. I would have to put it as, even though it was more money, it was online. At the end of the day, I'm man enough. Everyone out there is making the online excuse is probably jumping for joy right now. But there's no greater feeling than winning a tournament like that with, a whole bunch of people, thousands of people watching. It was great. It was awesome. There was just a little bit of glory, but there's nothing compares to having an event in person.
Well, it was the most watched COD competitive event ever.
Was it?
According to the CDL, yeah, that's what they sent out a whole.
That either.
They sent out a whole press release about how it was the most viewed.
Event.
Yeah, event. The most viewed.
Okay.
The most viewed event.
Yeah. Because I was about to say, I think Black Ops 2 Champs had 500,000 viewers or something like that, the finals, way back in the day, or something crazy like that.
Well, nevertheless, you're still a 3-time world champion and the winningest player of all time, and you've been very gracious with your time. So thank you very much, Crim. We appreciate you being here on ESPN Esports.
Thank you, guys.